Kevin with Houndbound Brewing, and today we're gonna do another grain to glass video, except this time it's not quite grain to glass. Today we're going with something a little different. So if you can tell, I named it Bite Water. Long story short, it's seltzer water, hard seltzer. So if we're talking hard seltzer, we're talking like White Claw, you know, ranch water, stuff of that nature. I could go into history of it, but let's be honest, there's not really a history of it. It's just seltzer water. This is actually my first time making it. So there's actually a handful of things I want to do different next time. One being the amount of dextrose I added, along with the flavoring extracts that we put in it. The flavors just weren't exactly what we wanted it to be. But I think it's such a simple thing to make that if you have flaws, if there are things that you realized off the first try that weren't quite right, it's one of those things that you can do the second time and probably nail it. So to kind of go into the recipe, it's super simple. This was a 5-gallon batch. So what we did was we started off with 5.5 gallons of reverse osmosis water, did a little bit of water chemistry just to make the water more balanced. We added 3 grams of gypsum, 3.6 grams of calcium chloride, and 0.45 grams of chalk. Along with that, we lowered the pH a little bit down to around 5, which is between 2.5 to 3 milliliters of lactic acid. I think we aimed for an original gravity of around 1.040, but we ended up somewhere a little higher because this ended up being about a 6% seltzer when I really wanted it to be about a 4.5, maybe 4% seltzer. So I think maybe half a pound to maybe even a pound less of dextrose would have given me something more in the lower range to what I was looking for. That being said, 6%, it's a seltzer water, so there's nothing really bad about having a 6% seltzer in my opinion. Especially if it's something you're going to be doing or drinking in the summertime when it's hot outside. We'll dive into the process now. It's super simple. Basically what you do is you heat your water to about 180, adjust with your salts, your lactic acid. Make sure that you have your lactic acid in the water before you start adding the sugar. So basically what you want to do is get your salts in, get your lactic acid in, and get the pH exactly how you want it before you start off with the actual sugar additions. So once you add your salts and your lactic acid in, go ahead and throw in your sugar addition. Get it all mixed in, make sure there's none settled down on the heat element, stuff like that, and then bring it to a boil. Just let it boil for 10 minutes. What we did after that was we cut the heat off on the boil and added in some of the Omega Proper Seltzer nutrients. It's a small pack. You toss that into basically the whole mixture at that point at flameout, and just let it whirlpool until your mixture is chilled all the way down. Your seltzer, I don't even know if I want to call it wort. Your seltzer mixture is chilled all the way down to about 80, and from there on we just pitch that into your fermenter. What we did was we added some Omega Lutra Kveik yeast and let that ferment at about 80 degrees for a week, almost 2 weeks, and then just cold crash it to make sure that it was pretty much crystal clear, and we had seltzer. So that's basically it. Like it's seltzer water. It's very hard to mess up. You can do it in so many different avenues. If you want to take it to a route where you're making something more on the ranch water side of things, you know, ranch water is typically made with tequila, you know, agave nectar, lime, such. It wouldn't be a bad idea to possibly try making seltzer water with agave nectar as your sugar base instead of using dextrose. We have dextrose laying around quite a bit, so that's what we opted for. Let's talk flavor additions. So what I did was, after the seltzer had finished fermenting and I cold crashed it, I basically got my keg ready and I used some of this Brewer's Best natural flavoring. This one right here is jalapeno. What we did was we added about half of this jalapeno, which would be around 2 fluid ounces, and we added a full bottle of the lime flavor. So basically what I was going for was a jalapeno lime flavored seltzer. What ended up happening was the jalapeno was more prominent flavor-wise. Not a lot of spice came through on it. It was more up front in the beginning, but then it just kind of faded. And the lime honestly just wasn't there. Like 100% was not there. I think I might have tasted it a little bit after the first maybe week or so of carbonation in the keg, but it just wasn't there. So what I would probably do next time is add in some natural lime, maybe some natural lime juice, get that blended in somehow in the mixture, because I did not taste the lime at all. And the lime that I did taste tasted very artificial. And I think that's pretty common for the brewer's best flavorings. You kind of have to pick through those and see which ones you like the most, because some of them are a little artificial, some of them taste very similar to the actual thing, but there's so many different ways you can flavor your seltzer water. It's just one of those things that you can play with, and it's a fairly cheap product to make versus, you know, your 5-gallon batch of beer that's going to cost you $40, $50, $60, even up to maybe $100, depending on if you're making something like a hazy, something that's going to cost you a lot of money. It's very cheap to make seltzer and to make an alcoholic beverage that you can ferment just like beer and basically do whatever you want. Now that we have basically the layout of how to make hard seltzer, we're gonna go ahead and pour this last final one up. This one's been sitting in the fridge for a while. I do can my stuff, so shout out to October Design can seamers. If you don't have one, the SL1 can seamer is probably the best can seamer on the homebrew market right now. So let's pour this one up and see how it's tasting after maybe a month or so of sitting in the fridge in a can. So that's what it looks like, finished product. Fairly clear, no gelatin added. This is just kind of the natural coloring after you do a cold crash, you know. There's not much for there to settle out other than the yeast, and we all know Kveik yeast is very rapid and it moves very quickly and ferments very quickly, so it's not really something that takes a lot to settle down to the bottom. There's no head retention on it. I mean, it's water, so I don't really, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really expect head retention from a seltzer like this. So right off the bat with the smell, I just smell fresh jalapeno. Like the extract, the flavoring in the extract really came through. The spice isn't quite enough, so I'd probably add the full 4 ounces next time. But the smell overall, all I'm smelling is jalapeno. I will say right out of the fermenter, taking a sample, it kind of smelled like fart. It smelled like eggs, and it's just very sulfury. So this is something you want to let really sit for a little bit, if that makes sense, because it will have a very sulfur-like aroma to it at first. Flavor-wise, the aroma didn't really affect the flavor. It was just basically the aroma. It smelled like eggs and fart, and I think that happens to be because of the Kveik yeast. But let's go ahead and give it a taste. I mean, it tastes like seltzer water. Tastes like jalapeno seltzer water. With this being 6%, you can definitely tell that it's sweeter, you know, because there's more alcohol in it than your average seltzer, or your average sessionable seltzer, which might be around 4% up to maybe 5%. But it's very dry too, so it's highly attenuated. It's not like sugary sweet, it's just more alcohol sweet, if that makes sense. But overall, this is something, I mean, I would make again and again, you know, if I have extra yeast laying around. Water's easy to come by. We have our own RO system here, so, and experiment with your sugars, see what kind of sugars work best with your seltzer. But I hope you found something entertaining out of this video, something that might pique your interest into maybe considering trying to make a hard seltzer. I'm a home brewer. I prefer making beer, you know, but anything that is in my capabilities of making a different type of alcohol, something of that nature, I'm always interested in trying. It's fermented just like beer, so I was like, why not? Why not try it? Let me know if y'all come up with any cool seltzer recipes, if y'all have any comments, feedback, things that might make this better in the long run. I'm always open to hear that. Also, if you follow us on Instagram and Facebook, you'll see that we just recently launched some new apparel. So this being one of the shirts, this being one of the hats. We have several other products out there along with the new special shirt that we released. with the dog logo with the skeleton on it. Basically what we're doing is right now we're launching the apparel line, which is gonna fully kick off within the next month or so. And the main goal around it, obviously we're gonna keep the homebrew theme, the dog theme, maybe mix it up here and there, but the main goal is we're gonna take 10% of all of our proceeds. So if you spend $30 on a shirt, we're gonna take 3 of those dollars, put them in a fund, and once we get a certain amount reached, maybe in the 200 to 500 range, we're reaching out to local police department agencies and donating a certain percentage of that money to them to make sure that they can get the equipment they need. Whether it's just money going into their pocket for extra training costs, you know, tug toys, medical needs for their dogs, that's what we're trying to do. So right now, with the first proceeds of all the shirts that we've recently sold, we're probably going to end up buying some equipment for a new local agency to kick off of their canine program. So all that's very appreciated for anybody who's helped purchase, supported us. We have a lot more products coming out, a lot more shirt designs, and we're gonna hopefully fully kick off up here with a running business, hitting up some local vendors and stores and whatnot. So stay tuned with that, and anybody who's made it to the end of this video and watched this, I greatly support you, and I just hope you can subscribe below and follow us on Instagram and Facebook and stay in touch, and from there on, cheers.